Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're here. Today, we're diving into something absolutely profound. We usually just think of language as a practical tool, right? Just a biological utility for passing information back and forth. But as you'll see today, and we've got some incredible, colorful images to really bring this to life, language is literally so much more than that. It is the actual medium of human consciousness itself. It's exactly how we build our cultures, how we preserve our deepest memories, and honestly, how we reach towards something way bigger than ourselves. Let's get into it. Okay, I want you to really think about this massive number, 7,000. Right now, as we speak, there are somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 distinct languages spoken across the globe. No way, right? It's amazing to think about. We don't just have one single way of communicating. We literally have thousands. And together they form this vibrant, breathing mosaic of human thought. Every single one of them is like its own living universe. It has its own unique logic, its own rhythm and music, and its totally unique way of carving up reality. And this perfectly illustrates something ancient traditions have literally known for centuries. The world's great philosophical and religious frameworks all recognize language as our defining mark. For example, in Arabic, the word for human, insan, actually shares a root meaning closeness and intimacy, the exact kind of intimacy that's only possible through speech. Or take the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle. He literally called man the speaking animal. For him, the concept of logos meant speech, reason, and meaning all rolled into one. Language is the one thing that lets us do what no other species can do, accumulate and pass down super complex knowledge across generations. Which brings us to our first major theme.
Section 1. The Mark of Humanity and a Divine Sign.
So, the Quran, for instance, actually treats the sheer diversity of human languages as a wonder totally on par with the cosmos itself. Think about that. It explicitly names linguistic diversity as one of the signs of the Almighty, putting it right there in the exact same breath as the creation of the heavens and the earth. So in this kind of spiritual framework, preserving language, well, it's not just some niche academic hobby. It's viewed as a sacred text written across humanity, making its preservation an actual spiritual obligation.
All right, moving on to Section 2, Languages as Living Libraries.
I want you to imagine a library, but instead of being built with books, it's built entirely out of lived experience. Just picture the deep, incredibly vivid blues of the Pacific Ocean for a second. The Polynesian peoples developed this absolutely extraordinary vocabulary for describing things like currents, ocean swells, wind patterns, and the stars. And this wasn't just pretty, descriptive language. It was a complete, highly advanced navigational science encoded directly into how they spoke. By storing these completely untranslatable observations right there in their everyday speech, they literally crossed the largest ocean on Earth without a single modern instrument. How incredible is that?
Let's keep exploring this idea. If we travel deep within the incredibly lush, bright greens of the Amazon rainforest, we find that indigenous languages carry vast amounts of medical and botanical knowledge. Their everyday words contain super complex pharmacological data about the plants growing all around them. Seriously, this is knowledge that modern science is only just now starting to take seriously and honestly only partially understands. And the crazy part? It's all stored purely in the spoken word. Wrapping up our little global library tour in the stark, beautiful icy whites of the Arctic, we find the Sami people. Now they have dozens, literally dozens, of distinct words for different forms of snow and ice. And they don't just have these words to sound poetic, For centuries, being that precise in describing their environment was a practical, everyday tool absolutely vital for their survival. The language itself is the survival guide. So languages clearly hold crucial environmental data, but get this. They also hold time.
Section 3. Windows into Human History.
So, languages act a lot like geological strata. They carry these incredibly reliable fossils of ancient human migrations from way before written records even existed. Just look at this list. Sanskrit, Persian, Greek, Latin, Russian, English, Urdu, they all sound completely different from each other, right? But linguists have discovered something mind-blowing. They all share a single ancestor from 5,000 or 6,000 years ago called Proto-Indo-European. Just by studying the shared vocabulary across these modern languages today, scholars can actually reconstruct the beliefs, the daily lives, and the cultural encounters of ancient peoples who left behind almost zero physical evidence. It's like a giant puzzle.
Or let's look at some words you probably use all the time. Algebra, algorithm, alcohol, alchemy, almanac. Notice anything? They all start with AL. Well, these are linguistic fossils right in our own language. They're basically invisible monuments to a very specific chapter in human history, when Arabic was the world's primary language of science and scholarship, and European scholars were traveling east just to learn. The language literally remembers this history, even when everyday people forget.
Now, I want to strip away the grand historical timelines for just a second and compare these two proverbs. The English say, "A stitch in time saves nine," right? But the Arabs say, "Heal the wound before it spreads." We're talking about completely different cultures, totally different imagery, different centuries, and yet they encode the exact same practical algorithm for navigating life. Proverbs are essentially humanity's oldest, most battle-tested wisdom compressed down into these punchy little single lines just so they can survive the test of time. Okay, let's bring this explainer a little closer to home.
Section 4. Wisdom of the Mother Tongue.
Let's talk about the deeply emotional, cognitive, and really foundational role of what we can call the language of the heart. The absolute crucial point here is that the very first language a child absorbs occupies a special place in the brain that no second language can ever fully replace. It is literally the language of your dreams, of raw joy, of true, deep grief. In fact, studies consistently show that kids learn way more effectively when they're taught in their mother tongue. It's the rock-solid foundation that all other education is built on. But beyond just learning, it's the ultimate carrier of cultural dignity. When a home language is looked down on, or treated as backward or an obstacle to success, it irreparably breaks a community's dignity and shatters their relationship with their own history. And sadly, right now, this incredible tapestry of human consciousness we've been talking about, it's facing an unprecedented threat. We really need to slow down for a minute and look at what is currently sweeping the globe.
Section 5. The Silent Extinction Crisis. I want you to look at the stark contrast here. It is, honestly, absolutely devastating. Linguists estimate that if current trends keep up, as many as 90% of the world's languages may vanish within a single century. 90%! That's almost all of them. This massive, unprecedented erasure of human thought is happening so quietly. It's mostly driven by intense economic pressures and the massive, undeniable pull of modern dominant languages. You see, languages rarely die out from dramatic, forceful suppression. Instead, it's usually this quiet, almost invisible three-generation process. Think about it like this. The grandparents speak the language fluently. Then the parents switch over to the dominant language, usually just trying to find better economic opportunities. And then the third generation, the kids, well, they might understand bits and pieces of it when they hear it, but they don't actively speak it. And when that older generation passes away, the language just falls silent. The brilliant Malian scholar Amadou Hampante Bai captured this tragedy perfectly. He said, in Africa, when an old man dies, it is a library that burns. Remember our living libraries from earlier? When the absolute last fluent speaker of a language passes away, an entire, utterly irreplaceable way of perceiving the universe just burns right along with them. We're talking about thousands of years of careful observation, rich oral literature, and vital ecological wisdom entirely gone. Wiped out in the lifetime of a single person. And listen, this is exactly why preserving languages isn't just some kind of romantic nostalgia. It is a hard, practical necessity. When we lose languages, we are literally throwing away our cognitive diversity. Just like how biological diversity gives a forest or an ocean resilience, linguistic diversity gives humanity cognitive resilience. We desperately need the ecological survival data that's perfectly encoded in indigenous languages to help us face things like climate change. We need those alternative models of justice and community building that are deeply embedded in different cultures around the world. Because throwing all this diversity away, it just makes humanity incredibly fragile. I want to leave you with this powerful thought from Charlemagne. To have another language is to possess a second soul. Losing these beautiful languages, one by one, is not progress, guys. It's forgetting. And a civilization that forgets too much of what it once knew is eventually going to be very surprised by how much it actually needed to remember. So, as we look at this colorful, stunningly diverse world around us, I just have to ask you, how much of our collective human soul are we really willing to let quietly slip away? Thank you so much for watching this explainer, and as always, keep learning.